wrong. It is but natural that you should misjudge me, yet believe me..." "A truce on this foolery, Monsieur Chauvelin," she broke in, with sudden impatient vehemence. "Pray leave your protestations of friendship and courtesy alone. There is no one here to hear them. I pray proceed with what you have to say." "Ah!" It was a sigh of satisfaction on the part of Chauvelin. Her anger and impatience, even at this early stage of the interview, proved sufficiently that her icy restraint was only on the surface. And Chauvelin always knew how to deal with vehemence. He loved to play with the emotions of a passionate fellow creature. It was only the imperturbable calm of a certain enemy of his that was wont to shake his own impenetrable armour of reserve. "As your ladyship desires," he said, with a slight and ironical bow of the head. "But before proceeding according to your wish, I am compelled to ask your ladyship just one question." "And that is?" "Have you reflected what your present position means to that inimitable prince of dandies, Sir Percy Blakeney?" "Is it necessary for your present purpose, monsieur, that you should mention my husband's name at all?" she asked. "It is indispensable, fair lady," he replied suavely, "for is not the fate of your husband so closely intertwined with yours, that his actions will inevitably be largely influenced by your own?" Marguerite gave a start of surprise, and as Chauvelin had paused, she tried to read what hidden meaning lay behind these last words of his. Was it his intention then to propose some bargain, one of those terrible either-ors of which he seemed to possess the malignant secret? Oh, if that was so, if indeed he had sent for her in order to suggest one of those terrible alternatives of his, then, be it what it may, be it the wildest conception which the insane brain of a fiend could invent, she would accept it, so long as the man she loved were given one single chance of escape. Therefore she turned to her arch-enemy in a more conciliatory spirit now, and even endeavoured to match her own diplomatic cunning against his. "I do not understand," she said tentatively. "How can my actions influence those of my husband? I am a prisoner in Boulogne. He probably is not aware of that fact yet, and..." "Sir Percy Blakeney may be in Boulogne at any moment now," he interrupted quietly, "and I mistake not, few places can offer such great attractions to that peerless gentleman of fashion than doth this humble provincial town of France just at this present. Hath it not the honour of harbouring Lady Blakeney within its gates? And your ladyship may indeed believe me when I say that the day that Sir Percy lands in our hospitable port, 200 pairs of eyes will be fixed upon him, lest he should wish to quit it again." "And if it were 2000, sir," she said impulsively, "they would not stop his coming or going as he pleased." "Nay, fair lady," he said with a smile, "are you then endowing Sir Percy Blakeney with the attributes which, as popular fancy has it, belong exclusively to that mysterious English hero, the Scarlet Pimpernel?" "A truce to your diplomacy, Monsieur Chauvelin," she retorted, goaded by his sarcasm. "Why should we try to fence with one another? What was the object of your journey to England? Of the farce which you enacted in my house with the help of the woman Candeille? Of that duel and that challenge, save that you desired to entice Sir Percy Blakeney to France? And also his charming wife," he added with an ironical bow. She bit her lip and made no comment. "Shall we say that I succeeded admirably?" he continued, speaking with persistent urbanity and calm, "and that I have strong cause to hope that the elusive Pimpernel will soon be a guest on our friendly shores? There, you see, I too have laid down the foils. As you say, why should we fence? Your ladyship is now in Boulogne, soon Sir Percy will come to try and take you away from us, but believe me, fair lady, that it would take more than the ingenuity and the daring of the Scarlet Pimpernel magnified 1,000-fold to get him back to England again. Unless..." "Unless..." Marguerite held her breath. She felt now as if the whole universe must stand still during the next supreme moment, until she had heard what Chauvelin's next words would be. There was to be an unless then? An either-or more terrible, no doubt, than the one he had formulated before her just a year ago. Chauvelin, she knew, was past master in the art of putting a knife at his victim's throat, and of giving it just the necessary twist with his cruel and relentless unless. But she felt quite calm, because her purpose was resolute. There is no doubt that during this agonizing moment of suspense she was absolutely firm in her determination to accept any and every condition which Chauvelin would put before her as the price of her husband's safety. After all, these conditions, since he placed them before her, could resolve themselves into questions of her own life against her husband's. With that unreasoning impulse which was one of her most salient characteristics, she never paused to think that, to Chauvelin, her own life and death were only the means to the great end which he had in view, the complete annihilation of the Scarlet Pimpernel. That end could only be reached by Percy Blakeney's death, not by her own. Even now, as she was watching him with eyes glowing and lips tightly closed, lest a cry of impatient agony should escape her throat, he, like a snail that has shown its slimy horns too soon and is not ready to face the enemy as yet, seemed suddenly to withdraw within his former shell of careless suavity. The earnestness of his tone vanished, giving place to light and easy conversation, just as if he were discussing social topics with a woman of fashion in a Paris drawing-room. "Nay," he said pleasantly, "is not your ladyship taking this matter in too serious a spirit? Of a truth you repeated my innocent word 'unless', even as if I were putting a knife at your dainty throat. Yet I meant naught that need disturb you yet. Have I not said that I am your friend? Let me try and prove it to you." "You will find that a difficult task, monsieur," she said drily. "Difficult tasks always have had a great fascination for your humble servant. May I try?" "Certainly." "Shall we then touch at the root of this delicate matter? Your ladyship, so I understand, is at this moment under the impression that I desire to encompass, shall I say, the death of an English gentleman for whom, believe me, I have the greatest respect. That is so, is it not?" "What is so, Monsieur Chauvelin?" she asked almost stupidly, for truly she had not even begun to grasp his meaning. "I do not understand." "You think that I am at this moment taking measures for sending the Scarlet Pimpernel to the guillotine, eh?" "I do." "Never was so great an error committed by a clever woman. Your ladyship must believe me when I say that the guillotine is the very last place in the world where I would wish to see that enigmatic and elusive personage." "Are you trying to fool me, Monsieur Chauvelin? If so, for what purpose? And why do you lie to me like that? On my honour, 'tis the truth. The death of Sir Percy Blakeney, I may call him that, may I not, would ill suit the purpose which I have in view." "What purpose? You must pardon me, Monsieur Chauvelin," she added with a quick, impatient sigh, "but of a truth I am getting confused, and my wits must have become dull in the past few days. I pray to you to add to your many protestations of friendship a little more clearness in your speech, and if possible a little more brevity. What then is the purpose which you had in view when you enticed my husband to come over to France?" "My purpose was the destruction of the Scarlet Pimpernel, not the death of Sir Percy Blakeney. Believe me, I have a great regard for Sir Percy. He is a most accomplished gentleman, witty, brilliant, an inimitable dandy. Why should he not grace with his presence the drawing-rooms of London or of Brighton for many years to come?" She looked at him with puzzled inquiry. For one moment the thought flashed through her mind that, after all, Chauvelin might be still in doubt as to the identity of the Scarlet Pimpernel. But no, that hope was madness, it was preposterous and impossible. But then why? Why? Oh God, for a little more patience! "What I have just said may seem a little enigmatic to your ladyship," he continued blandly, "but surely so clever a woman as yourself, so great a lady as is the wife of Sir Percy Blakeney, Baronet, will be aware that there are other means of destroying an enemy than the taking of his life." "For instance, Monsieur Chauvelin?" "There is the destruction of his honour," he replied slowly. A long, bitter laugh, almost hysterical in its loud outburst, broke from the very depths of Marguerite's convulsed heart. "The destruction of his honour! Of a truth, Monsieur Chauvelin, your inventive powers have led you beyond the bounds of dreamland. It is in the land of madness that you are wandering, sir, when you talk in one breath of Sir Percy Blakeney and the possible destruction of his honour." But he remained apparently quite unruffled, and when her laughter had somewhat subsided, he said placidly: "Perhaps." Then he rose from his chair and once more approached her. This time she did not shrink from him. The suggestion which he had made just now, this talk of attacking her husband's honour rather than his life, seemed so wild and preposterous, the conception truly of a mind unhinged, that she looked upon it as a sign of extreme weakness on his part, almost as an acknowledgment of impotence. But she watched him as he moved round the table more in curiosity now than in fright. He puzzled her, and she still had a feeling at the back of her mind that there must be something more definite and more evil lurking at the back of that tortuous brain. "Will your ladyship allow me to conduct you to yonder window?" he said. "The air is cool, and what I have to say can best be done in sight of yonder sleeping city." His tone was one of perfect courtesy, even of respectful deference, through which not the slightest trace of sarcasm could be discerned, and she, still actuated by curiosity and interest, not in any way by fear, quietly rose to obey him. Though she ignored the hand which he was holding out towards her, she followed him readily enough as he walked up to the window. All through this agonizing and soul-stirring interview she had felt heavily oppressed by the close atmosphere of the room, rendered nauseous by the evil smell of the smoky tallow candles, which were left to spread their grease and smoke abroad unchecked. Once or twice she had gazed longingly towards the suggestion of pure air outside. Chauvelin evidently still had much to say to her.